The champagne flute slipped from Maisie's fingers, shattering against the polished oak floor of the vineyard's tasting room like a gunshot in the hushed afternoon. Maisie? Oh God. Maisie. Is that you? The voice sliced through the murmur of laughter and clinking glasses, pulling her gaze up from the glittering shards to the woman who'd haunted her dreams for 2 years, Elena. Radiant in a silk slip dress that hugged her curves like a second skin, her dark eyes widening in a cocktail of surprise and something sharper, like regret laced with venom. But it was the arm looped possessively through Elena's that turned Maisie's world to ash. Sophia. Her own cousin. All wide-eyed innocence and that damn family resemblance. The one who'd promised sisters forever, at their last awkward family barbecue. Maisie Harper had always been the fixer in her family, the one who patched up scraped knees on the Oregon coast trails where they grew up. The one who mediated Aunt Lydia's passive-aggressive jabs at Thanksgiving dinners in Portland. 28. With her auburn waves perpetually windswept from weekend hikes in the Cascades, she carried that role like a badge, even as it weighed her down. Her job as a social worker in San Francisco's Mission District kept her knee-deep in other people's messes. Foster kids navigating fractured homes, immigrants wrestling with red tape. It was exhausting, but it beat staring at the empty half of her queen-sized bed in her No Valley apartment, where the ghosts of what-ifs lingered like fog rolling in from the bay. That's why, when her best friend Tara texted her about a low-key mixer at a Napa Valley vineyard, think wine, whimsy, and zero pressure. Babe. You need this. Maisie had said yes without a second thought. It had been 6 months since her last half-hearted Tinder swipe, and the ache from Elena had dulled to a manageable throb, like an old bruise you forget about until you bump it. Elena Vasquez, the fiery graphic designer she'd met at a queer art crawl in the Castro 2 years ago. All smoldering glances over sketchpads and late-night tacos from the truck on 24th Street. Their romance had burned hot and fast, stolen weekends in Big Sur. Elena's laughter echoing off redwood trunks, fingers intertwined under starlit skies. But it ended in flames too. Elena's accusations of Maisie's emotional unavailability, Maisie's counter of Elena's wandering eyes at every gallery opening. The breakup had been a screaming match in the rain-slicked streets of The Haight. Umbrellas forgotten. Hearts laid bare and broken. Maisie arrived at the vineyard just as the golden light of late summer slanted across the rows of Cabernet vines, the air thick with the scent of fermenting grapes and eucalyptus. The event was billed as a sapphic soiree, a casual gathering for queer women in their late 20s and 30s, hosted by a local winery with ties to the LGBTQ+ community. String lights twinkled between pergolas, and a jazz trio played soft standards near a long harvest table groaning under charcuterie boards and bottles of rose. Maisie smoothed her emerald sundress, simple, length, the color a nod to her eyes, and scanned the crowd. A few familiar faces from SFC nodded hello, the barista from her favorite coffee spot in the dog patch, a yoga instructor with a septum piercing. She grabbed a glass of Sauvignon Blanc, the crisp acidity cutting through her nerves, and wandered toward a cluster of women laughing over a game of cornhole. That's when she saw them. Elena and Sophia, stepping out from the shade of an olive grove arm in arm, their heads bent close in that intimate way that spoke of shared secrets. Sophia, 26, fresh out of grad school at UC Davis with a degree in enology, because of course she'd chased the family legacy of Oregon winemakers, had always been the golden child. Petite like their shared grandmother, with the same freckles dusting her nose. But where Maisie was all sturdy hikes and calloused palms, Sophia was delicate watercolors and whispered poetry. They'd been thick as thieves growing up. Summer nights trading ghost stories on the beach at Cannon Beach, promising to conquer the world together. Blood's thicker than wine, Sophia used to tease, clinking stolen sips of their uncle's Riesling. But that was before the family rift. Before Aunt Lydia's divorce splashed across Portland headlines, heiress leaves tech mogul for yoga guru, and Sophia sided with her mother, ghosting Maisie's calls during the fallout. Maisie had forgiven it, chalked it up to loyalty, buried the hurt under layers of family first. Now, seeing Sophia's hand linger on Elena's waist, the way Elena's fingers brushed a stray auburn curl from Sophia's forehead, the world tilted. Elena caught her eye first, that familiar spark igniting into something feral. "Maisie," she said again, louder this time, detaching from Sophia with a grace that felt rehearsed. The jazz faded to a hum, the laughter around them muffling like underwater echoes. Sophia followed Elena's gaze. Her blue eyes, mirror images of Maisie's own, but softer, less guarded, flaring with recognition. "'Cuz? Maze, what are you?" she trailed off, a flush creeping up her neck, the kind that used to signal mischief but now screamed guilt. The three of them stood there, a fractured triangle in the vineyard's embrace, the vines whispering accusations in the breeze. Maisie's throat tightened, the wine turning sour on her tongue. This wasn't a casual run-in at a farmer's market. This was Elena, the woman who'd carved her initials into Maisie's soul, draped over Sophia like a vine-claiming new trellis. "I didn't know you'd be here," Elena said, stepping closer, her voice a low timbre that still sent shivers down Maisie's spine. Close. She was even more devastating, the faint scar above her eyebrow from that biking accident in Golden Gate Park, the silver hoop in her nose catching the sun. She smelled of jasmine and patchouli, the same scent that used to cling to Maisie's pillows. Tara's event, right? Small world. Small and shrinking, Maisie managed, her voice steadier than she felt. She forced a smile, the social worker mask slipping into place, the one she used for tense custody hearings. "Yeah. Bumping into exes at wine tastings. Classic Cali queer life." Sophia hovered behind Elena, twisting the hem of her linen blouse, her expression a war of apology and defiance. "Maisie, we were going to tell you. At the family dinner next month." "It's just what?" Maisie's laugh was sharp, brittle as autumn leaves. "A family dinner? Like the one where you bailed on me last Christmas because school was intense? Or the one where Mom asked about your mystery girlfriend, and you changed the subject to compost bins?" The words spilled out, hot and unfiltered, drawing sidelong glances from the cornhole group. She didn't care. The betrayal wasn't just romantic, it was a gutting of the only tether she had left to her roots. Elena reached out, her hand hovering near Maisie's arm before dropping. "This isn't how I wanted you to find out. Sophia and I. It happened after us. Organically." The word hung there, mocking organically, like a weed overtaking a garden you'd toiled over. "Organically," Maisie echoed, the syllable tasting like bile. She set her glass down on a nearby barrel, the clink echoing her fracturing resolve. "Right. Because nothing says organic like my ex and my cousin playing house in Napa, while I'm back in the city scraping by on heartbreak and foster files." Sophia stepped forward then, her voice small but insistent. "Maze, please. It's not like that. Elena's been good for me. She gets the pressure, the family expectations, the whole Harper legacy bullshit. You know how it is." Maisie did know. The Harpers were old Pacific Northwest stock, loggers turned vintners, their names etched on coastal bluffs and bottle labels. Maisie had rebelled early, city girl, proudly out since 16 while Sophia played the part, charming professors and suitors alike. But Elena? Elena had been Maisie's rebellion incarnate. A transplant from LA with Chicana roots and a sketchbook full of queer icons. They'd bonded over shared marginalia. Maisie's freckled Irish-Scottish pallor against Elena's sun-kissed warmth. Late-night talks about body dysmorphia in a culture that fetishized both. Now, that bond twisted into something grotesque. Gets the pressure? Maisie shot back at Sophia. Or gets the perks? The free weekends in wine country. The arm candy for your mommy's galas. It was cruel. And she knew it. The low blow aimed at Sophia's insecurities about Aunt Lydia's spotlight. Sophia flinched, tears welling. But Elena's eyes narrowed. Protective fire flaring. Enough. Maisie, Elena snapped. The old edge returning. The one that had sliced them open in their final fight. You don't get to police this. You left me hanging. Remember? Too buried in your Save the World crusade to notice I was drowning. The accusation landed like a slap. Dredging up the nights Elena had begged for more time. More vulnerability. While Maisie juggled double shifts and therapy sessions for her clients. It wasn't fair. But fairness had never been their strong suit. The trio dissolved into an awkward standoff. The jazz trio launching into At Last, as if to underscore the irony. Maisie excused herself, mumbling something about the restroom, her heels crunching gravel as she fled toward the main house. Behind her, she heard Sophia's whisper, "I told you this would happen," and Elena's soothing murmur, "A bomb that should have been hers." Inside the cool stone-tiled bathrooms, Maisie splashed water on her face, staring at her reflection, green eyes rimmed red, freckles stark against flushed skin. How had it come to this? A casual date night turned ambush, her past and present colliding in a haze of Merlot and malice. She thought of calling Tara, spilling it all in a frantic voicemail. But pride or stupidity kept her phone in her pocket. Instead, she straightened her dress, reapplied her lip balm with trembling fingers, and stepped back into the fray. The mixer was young. The night stretched ahead like an unspooled reel of film, full of potential rewrites. But as she rejoined the crowd, accepting a fresh glass from a sympathetic bartender, Maisie couldn't shake the image. Elena's hand in Sophia's, fingers laced like they belonged. It wasn't just loss, it was erasure. Her cousin, her confidant, stealing the one woman who'd made her feel seen, whole. The betrayal burrowed deep, a thorn she couldn't extract, drawing blood with every breath. Hours blurred into a haze of forced small talk, flirting half-heartedly with a cute sommelier named Riley, whose dimples promised distraction but delivered only echoes. By dusk, as fireflies danced among the vines, Maisie spotted them again, Elena and Sophia, swaying to the music on the makeshift dance floor. Foreheads touching in that quiet intimacy Maisie remembered all too well. Sophia's laugh pealed out, light and unburdened, and something in Maisie cracked wide open. She didn't confront them then. Not yet. Instead, she slipped away to her rental car. The engine's hum a poor substitute for the heartbeat pounding in her ears. The drive back to San Francisco was a tear-streaked blur. Highway 29 winding through darkness, the bay lights winking like distant stars when she crossed the bridge. Home was a sanctuary of sorts, the apartment with its exposed brick walls, posters of Frida Kahlo and Audre Lorde, a half-dead fiddle leaf fig she'd named Fernando after too many failed waterings. She collapsed onto the couch, Scrolling through old photos, Elena grinning from a Muir Woods trailhead, Sophia at their high school graduation, arms slung around Maisie's neck. Sleep evaded her, chased away by what-ifs. What if she'd fought harder for Elena? What if she'd mended fences with Sophia sooner? Dawn crept in, gray and unforgiving, bringing the realization that this wasn't over. Family ties didn't snap like cheap string, they knotted, pulling you under. And love, God. Love was the cruelest knot of all. The invitation arrived 3 weeks later, slipped under her door like a guilty secret, cream cardstock embossed with gold vines. The script elegant and impersonal. You are cordially invited to celebrate the union of Elena Vasquez and Sophia Harper. Napa Valley, October 15th. Black tie optional. Family and friends only. Maisie's hand shook as she traced the names. The data punched to the gut, her birthday weekend. The one Elena used to mark with surprise picnics in Dolores Park. She should have tossed it. Deleted the email follow-up from Sophia. Please come. Maze. We need to talk. But the fixer in her, the stubborn Harper heart, couldn't let it lie. This wedding wasn't just a ceremony, it was a declaration. A rewriting of her story where she was the villain, the outsider. If she was going to bleed, she'd do it on her terms. So Maisie RSVP'd yes. The click of the mouse echoing like a loaded chamber. The countdown began. Each day a tightening coil of dread and determination. She threw herself into work, mediating a sibling rivalry that mirrored her own, advocating for a trans teen's name change in family court. Nights were for therapy, her own this time, unpacking the abandonment wounds from their parents' messy split, and long runs along Ocean Beach, the Pacific's roar drowning her sobs. Tara tried to talk her out of it over bottomless mimosas at a brunch in the Haight. Babe. It's a trap. Salt in the wound. Let them have their Pinterest-perfect vows without the audience participation. But Maisie waved her off. Chin set. I need closure. Tar. Or at least a front-row seat to whatever fresh hell this is. The weeks melted into preparation. A new dress from a queer-owned boutique in the Castro. Emerald silk that whispered against her skin like a promise. She even texted Riley the sommelier. Fancy crashing a wedding with me? Half joking. But his hell yes reply sparked a flicker of something new. Tentative as a match strike. October 15th dawned crisp. The Napa Hills ablaze in autumn fire. Maisie drove up alone. Riley flaking last minute with a work excuse that smelled like cold feet. The Vineyard Heartwood Estates. Sophia's internship spot turned fairytale venue. Sprawled under a cloudless sky. White tints billowing like sails. Aisles lined with pumpkins and fairy lights. Guests milled about. Elena's artsy LA crew in boho chic. The Harper clan in tailored tweed. Aunt Lydia holding court with a flute of vintage port. Maisie arrived fashionably late, slipping into a back pew as the string quartet struck up Pachelbel's canon. Her heart hammered. A war drum in her chest. Then the doors at the end of the aisle swung open. And there she was, Sophia. Radiant in blush tulle. Arm in arm with their grandmother, who dabbed tears with a lace hanky. But it was Elena who stole the breath from Maisie's lungs, gliding down the aisle in ivory lace. Her curls pinned with wildflowers. Eyes locked not on the altar but scanning the crowd until they found hers. Pause. A flicker, regret? Defiance. Before she turned away. The ceremony unfolded in a blur of vows and laughter. The officiant, a butch dyke with a voice like velvet, pronouncing them bound in love's vintage. Rings exchanged. A kiss that lingered too long. Cheers erupting like fireworks. Maisie clapped mechanically. her nails digging crescents into her palms. It was beautiful. Damn it. Human. Two women claiming their joy in a world that still whispered doubts. But the humanism curdled in her gut, twisted by the personal slight. Reception tents glowed as dusk fell, lanterns swaying in the breeze off the valley floor, casting shadows that danced like uneasy specters. Maisie nursed a gin and tonic at the bar. The botanist spied a poor anesthetic for the ache blooming in her chest. Toasts rang out. Elena's sister recounting childhood escapades in Echo Park. Uncle Harlan waxing poetic about Harper blood running true as the vines. Sophia's cheeks flushed with each one, her hand never leaving Elena's under the head tablecloth, a gesture Maisie clocked from across the room. Intimate as a secret code. She'd meant to corner them during the cocktail hour, demand answers in the quiet before the cake-cutting chaos. But every approach faltered. Sophia pulled away by cousins for photos, Elena encircled by admirers cooing over her gown. By the time the first dance started, Etta James crooning at last again. Because irony was the night's cruel DJ, Maisie's resolve had frayed to threads. She watched from the perimeter, Riley's absence a fresh sting, as Elena led Sophia across the floor. Their bodies sinking in that effortless way Maisie remembered from her own stolen spins with Elena in dimly lit Mission bars. "May I?" A voice at her elbow, soft, accented with a hint of the South. Maisie turned to find Lena. No relation to her Elena but a doppelganger in name and loose curls. A photographer hired for the event. Mid-30s. With laugh lines etching her warm brown skin and a camera slung like an old friend, Lena had been circling the edges all night, capturing candids with quiet reverence. "You look like you're plotting a heist." Or a heartfelt speech. Maisie snorted, the sound wet with unshed tears. Both. Mostly the heist. Steal the cake and bolt. Lena's chuckle was low, inviting. And for a moment, Maisie let herself lean into it. The stranger's presence a buoy in the storm. They talk easy. Meandering. Lena's move from Atlanta to SF for the light. Maisie's love for the city's fog-shrouded sunrises. It was the first real breath she'd taken since the aisle. A reminder that the world spun on queers finding each other in the unlikeliest corners. But the spell shattered when Sophia approached, Elena trailing like a shadow. "Maisie," Sophia said, voice pitched low to dodge the DJ's swell. Her eyes, red-rimmed from joy or nerves, pleaded. "Can we talk? Please. 5 minutes." Elena hung back, arms crossed. Her posture a fortress Maisie knew too well, braced for battle. Lena excused herself gracefully, melting into the crowd with a wink that promised, "Find me later." Maisie nodded to Sophia, gesturing toward a quieter alcove near the dessert station, where tiers of lavender-flecked cupcakes loomed like judgmental sentinels. The three of them huddled there, the tense canvas walls muffling the revelry to a dull roar. "I owe you an apology," Sophia started, words tumbling like overripe grapes. "For everything. The ghosting after Mom's divorce, the lies by omission about us." She gestured vaguely between her and Elena, who shifted uncomfortably, gaze fixed on a distant fire pit. "I was scared, Maze. Scared of screwing up the family more than it already was. And Elena, she showed up at one of my tastings last spring. All fire and sketches. And it just clicked. Like coming home." "Home," Maisie repeated, the word a hiss. "You mean the home I built with her? The one where we'd lie awake in my apartment, planning road trips to Joshua Tree, whispering about adopting kids someday. That home." Her voice cracked on the last. vision blurring. She'd never voiced those dreams aloud, not even to Tara. But here they were, spilling like wine on white linen. Elena's head snapped up. Eyes stormy. Don't rewrite history, Maze. You were always half out the door, phone buzzing with crisis calls, weekends vanishing into your important work. I needed someone who could meet me where I was, not drag me into their orbit. The defensiveness was familiar, a script they'd recited to death. But hearing it now, laced with Sophia's scent on her skin, it landed differently. Weaponized. Sophia reached for Maisie's hand, the familial touch a jolt. I never meant to hurt you. You're my sister. Blood and bone. When Elena told me about your fights, the way you'd shut down, I thought I could help. Be the bridge. Her voice broke, tears tracking mascara. But I fell in love. Hard. And now, seeing you here, it feels like I've burned the only bridge that mattered. The confession hung heavy, a trinity of truths colliding. Maisie searched their faces, Sophia's earnest plea, Elena's guarded flicker of the woman who'd once traced constellations on her back. Betrayal wasn't a monolith, it was this, a mosaic of good intentions and selfish wants, family loyalty clashing with romantic hunger. In another life, she might have raged, shattered a glass like at the mixer, stormed out into the night. But the months of therapy had carved space for nuance, for the humanistic ache of seeing love bloom where yours had withered. I hate this, Maisie whispered, pulling her hand away gently. Hate that I want to hate you both. But mostly, I hate that I get it. Love doesn't play fair. It doesn't check pedigrees. She swallowed hard, tasting salt. You two. You look good together. Real. That's more than a lot of us get. Sophia's sob escaped, muffled against Elena's shoulder as the taller woman pulled her close. But her eyes stayed on Maisie, grateful, gutted. Elena met Maisie's gaze then, raw and unfiltered. I'm sorry, she said. Simple as that. The words a key turning in a long-rusted lock. For the mess we made. For not seeing you clearer. It wasn't absolution. Not yet. But it was a start. A crack in the armor where light could seep in. Maisie nodded, backing away as the DJ called for the bouquet toss. Go dance. Be happy. Just send me a save the date for the next family thing. No more surprises. She fled the alcove, weaving through the throng to the tent's edge, where Lena waited with 2 fresh drinks and a knowing smile. Rough recon, the photographer asked, handing over a whiskey neat. You could say. Maisie clinked glasses, the burn chasing the chill. They talked until the stars wheeled overhead. Lena's stories of capturing weddings from Brooklyn lofts to Savannah squares weaving a spell of possibility. For the first time that night, laughter came easy, untainted. But closure was a lie. Emotions don't tie neat bows. As fireworks cracked over the vines, Harper tradition, gunpowder and glory, Maisie slipped outside. The cool air a slap of reality. She wandered the rows, heels sinking into loamy earth, until she found a bench overlooking the moonlit valley. There, alone with the crickets' chorus, the dam broke. Sobs racked her, not just for Elena or Sophia, but for the girl she'd been, the fixer who'd poured herself into others until she ran dry. Footsteps crunched behind her, Sophia. Alone this time. Elena's silhouette visible at the tent flap. Maze, her cousin breathed, sinking beside her. the bridesmaid gown pooling like spilled cream. I can't do this without you. The vows. They felt hollow without my North Star. Maisie wiped her face, turning to those familiar blue eyes. North Star? Sob. You eclipsed me. But maybe that's okay. Stars die so others can shine. It was trite. Therapy speak. But true in the marrow. She pulled Sophia into a hug. The embrace fierce and forgiving. Scents of lavender and cake mingling with earth. I love you. Idiot. Always will. But next time you fall for my ex, at least buy me dinner first. Sophia's laugh bubbled up. Shaky but real. And they sat there until Elena joined. The three of them a tentative constellation. No grand reconciliation. No erased scars, just the messy humanism of moving forward. One shared breath at a time. The night wore on. Fireworks fading to embers. Maisie danced with Lena under the lanterns. Tentative steps turning bold. Hands brushing in promises unspoken. As she drove south at dawn, the bay awakening in pink haze, she felt lighter, not healed, but whole. Betrayal had carved her open, but in the wound's space, new stories could root. And in America's vast, forgiving landscape, from Napa's vines to San Francisco's fog, love, in all its dramatic turns, always found a way to bloom again. Months later, the Harper Vasquez wedding had receded into family lore, the vintage vows, whispered with a mix of awe and awkwardness at holiday gatherings. Aunt Lydia, ever the opportunist, had leveraged the event into a line of love's blend rose, pink as Sophia's gown, marketed with tasteful photos of the couple amid the vines. Sold out in weeks. A testament to queer joy's marketability in California's wine-soaked heartland. For Maisie, the aftermath was quieter. More internal, a slow unfurling like ferns after rain. She and Sophia rebuilt in fits and starts, weekly calls that veered from stilted apologies to shared gripes about their mother's meddling. A weekend hike in Point Reyes where they scattered wildflower seeds in silence, letting nature mend what words couldn't. Elena was a ghost in those talks. Present but polite, a hope you're well text after the ceremony. A like on Maisie's Instagram post about a successful client adoption. Boundaries, Maisie reminded herself, were the new romance. Work remained her anchor. The Mission District's pulse a reminder of larger battles. She spearheaded a program pairing queer mentors with at-risk youth, pouring Elena's old sketches into murals that splashed color across cracked sidewalks. Art as armor, she called it, echoing late-night pillow talk with her ex. In quiet moments, gratitude flickered not for the pain, but for the alchemy that turned it to purpose. Lena the photographer wove in naturally, like fog claiming the hills. Their first real date was a dusk picnic in Golden Gate Park. Cheese from the Ferry Building. A bottle of that infamous rose for irony's sake. Lena's camera capturing Maisie's unguarded laughs as Japanese tea garden lanterns flickered to life. 34. With her easy drawl and steady gaze, Lena was no rebound, she was resonance, a woman who'd lost her own love to cancer 3 years prior, who understood grief's long shadow without needing maps. You're not fixing me, Lena murmured one night. Tangled in Maisie's sheets, the city lights painting their skin in neon strokes. Just fitting. Like puzzle pieces that got lost in the couch cushions. Maisie traced the curve of her hip. The vulnerability a gift, not a grenade. Their rhythm was slow burn. Gallery hops in Soma. Brunches where Lena's cornbread recipe outshone Tara's mimosas. Weekends in Mendocino chasing waves and whispers. No grand gestures. Just the romantic humanism of two women choosing each other. Day by scarred day. Conflict reared its head. Of course, because drama was woven into Maisie's DNA. Courtesy of those coastal genes. A Christmas in Portland. The family dinner turned tense when Uncle Harlan, 3 ports deep, cornered her by the Yule log. Heard about your situation with Sophie. Messy business. Kin and all. But blood's blood. Forgive and forget. His pat on the back felt like a brand. The old guard's discomfort with her queerness bubbling up in paternal advice. Maisie bristled, fork clattering against her plate of Dungeness crab. Forgive? Sure. Forget? That's for folks who don't learn from fire. Sophia, seated across with Elena's hand under the table, shot her a pleading look. But Maisie held firm. Later, in the powder room mirror, flanked by antique sconces and their grandmother's lace doilies, she breathed through the rage. Texting Lena a photo. Family therapy. Level expert. The real storm hit in spring. When Sophia announced her pregnancy, IVF triumph. A donor from Elena's side to keep the roots tangled. The call came during Maisie's lunch break. Amid the taqueria's salsa tang. Maise, we're having a baby. Due in November. Aunt Lydia's already knitting booties. Joy laced Sophia's voice. But undercurrent guilt swirled like crema in soup. Maisie's congratulations were genuine. A hard-won grace. That's amazing. Soph. Tell Elena congrats too. Kid's gonna have the best godmothers. But hanging up. Alone in her office with its stacks of case files. The envy crashed in not for the baby, but the unscarred path. Why them? The seamless union. While hers forked into what-ifs, she drove to Ocean Beach that evening. Lena meeting her on the sand with thermoses of spike cider. Waves thundered. Gray as grief. And Maisie spilled it all. The wedding's echo. The cousin's coup. The fear that love would always arrive pre-wounded. Lena listened. Arm around her shoulders. Until the tide turned. Baby or not. You're not sidelined. Maise. You're the trailblazer. The one who mapped the wild so others could follow. She kissed Maisie's temple. Salt and cider mingling. And if anyone's eclipsing anyone, lighting up this whole damn coast. The words anchored her. A lighthouse in the fog. Back in the city. Maisie channeled it, proposing to Lena over dim sum in Chinatown. Rings simple gold bands etched with vines. For the roots we choose. Lena's yes was tear-streaked. A vow under paper lanterns. Their engagement dinner a raucous affair with Tara toasting. To messy middles and magical endings. Summer brought the baby shower in Napa, heartwood again. Irony's full circle. Maisie arrived with Lena on her arm. The pair in matching linen shifts. Carrying a hand-stitched quilt from their queer sewing circle. Stars and vines intertwined. Sophia, round and radiant at 7 months, hugged her fierce, whispering thank you for staying. Elena pulled Maisie aside by the dessert tent. Vulnerability cracking her poise. Seeing you happy heals something in me too. We were kids playing at forever. This is grown folk love. Maisie nodded. The old wound a scar now. Tender but tough. Yeah. Grown and gorgeous. They clinked mocktails, ginger beer for the moms-to-be, and watched Lena charm Aunt Lydia with tales of Southern Gothic weddings. The tent alive with laughter. As fireflies rose with the dusk, Maisie slipped away to that same bench. Lena joining her wordlessly. The valley hummed, pregnant with promise. Think we'll make it? Maisie asked, half joking, her head on Lena's shoulder. Lena's fingers traced her knuckles. We already are. One vintage at a time, the stars emerged, vast and unjudging, over America's wine-woven heart. Betrayal had been the storm, but in its wake, Maisie found not just survival, but a deeper romance with herself, with chosen kin, with the wild, humanistic pulse of love that bent but never broke. And in the quiet of that California night, she believed it wholeheartedly, freckle by freckle,